I'm Pastor Paul Holt with a Bible Factor Update. Are Christians eating meat sacrificed to idols? As a growing number of food stores offer halal meats. I know immediately you would say, Pastor, really? That's such a first century problem. We don't have trouble with meat sacrificed to idols. Well, actually we do. A growing number of grocery stores and restaurants, not just across America, but around the world, are offering halal foods as Muslim populations grow around the world. It turns out that Muslims are commanded to face Mecca 5 times a day to pray. Muslims are commanded to attempt a pilgrimage at least once in their lifetime to go to Mecca and to pray and to bow. Muslims are commanded to eat only halal or Muslim certified meat and food that has been killed while declarations are made to their false god while facing Mecca. So, what is at Mecca? What are they bowing to? What are they praying to? Well, they gather around a structure that at its heart, when they bow down to it, and millions of Muslims, well, let's face it, billions of Muslims are facing this particular structure. At the heart of this structure is the Kaaba stone. I may not be pronouncing it correctly, but that's what it is. It is a meteorite placed there by the false prophet Muhammad in that structure that Muslims are praying and sacrificing their meat to. It is the same way that they worshipped other false gods such as Diana and many more. This is how false gods have been worshipped for thousands of years, and it is specifically what is addressed in Scripture. So in Acts chapter 15, verse 29, the apostles made a ruling in how they should handle Gentile followers of Jesus Christ coming into the fold, how they could even break bread with them if they didn't at least deal with some basic issues. Among those, we find that we should abstain from what has been sacrificed to idols, and from blood, and from what has been strangled, and from sexual immorality. If you keep yourselves from these, you will do well. Farewell, it says in Acts 15:29. And in the book of Revelation, Jesus addresses 2 out of the 7 churches for this specific issue. He says in Revelation 2:14, "But I have a few things against you. You have some there who hold to the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the sons of Israel, so that they might eat food sacrificed to idols and practice sexual immorality." You see, this problem goes back thousands of years, even before Jesus came and died upon the cross, was raised from the dead, and ascended into heaven. But there were still churches struggling with this very issue. Revelation chapter 2, verse 20, Jesus addresses a different church where he says, "But I have this against you, that you tolerate that woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess, and is teaching and seducing my servants to practice" what? Sexual immorality, and to eat food sacrificed to idols. Now you may immediately ask, well, what about 1 Corinthians? In chapters 8 through chapter 10, doesn't the Apostle Paul address those that are weak in the faith and those that are strong in the faith, and that, well, the false gods that are worshipped by meat sacrificed to idols, they have no strength, they have no power because, well, they're false gods. Well, it's not so much about the power of false gods. Look, if we don't know, if we're not aware that it's meat sacrificed to idols, those gods have no power whatsoever. And that's what Paul was dealing with. He was talking about if you see if we're out eating outside of a temple and we're eating meat, we might have those that are weaker in the faith assume that we're eating meat sacrificed to idols when we really have no idea where the meat came from. Or we might go to a party and not be sure. We might go to someone else's house and not really know for sure if we're eating meat sacrificed to idols or not. In those instances, the false god has no power. But that's not what it's about. You see, Islam practices idol worship. Islam does sacrifice animals to their false god to make it halal or acceptable. If Christians knowingly eat halal meat, they are eating meat sacrificed to idols. Now, their gods have no power, none whatsoever. But our God, who has commanded us to abstain from eating meat sacrificed to idols? Oh, he has power. And he has commanded us not to eat those things. So if we don't know, that's one thing. But if we are aware of it, well, we know. And places of business like Costco and other grocery stores are openly selling halal meat. If you get lamb from Australia, chances are incredibly high, in fact, almost certain, to be meat sacrificed to idols. Chickens, in many cases. There are chickens in Costco and in other grocery stores that if you flip them over, you will see that Islamic symbol and the word halal. If you see that, pass it by. They sell other chickens that are not sacrificed to idols. Walk on by. No big deal. No foul there. Well, we need to, as believers, obey the Lord in all things. There is no excuse. I'm Pastor Paul Holt with a Bible Factor update. You can find me at thebiblefactor.com.